charge the customers proportionately as facilities degrade over their useful lives and maintain rate stability. Third principle, maintain credit worthiness for future debt issuance and remain in compliance with current debt obligations. I think that's self-explanatory. Each utility is financially independent from the others. This is important. We just don't want to get into the situation where one utility is subsidizing the other. They should pay for themselves. So next slide. So now we have cost drivers, specifically operations and maintenance. We talk about wages, benefits, and overtime, some of the cost drivers there. When you think about benefits, you know, healthcare generally outpaces inflation. We have overtime that we incur on weekends and holidays to perform water quality testing, lab work at the treatment plant, and there's also emergency call-outs. Materials and supplies, you know, these are cost drivers as well. You know, typical materials and supply expenses include pipes, leak clamps, lab supplies, UV bulbs, pump and treatment chemicals like chlorine and sodium hydroxide and sodium hypochlorite. Another cost driver, regulatory preventative maintenance programs. A good example of this is street sweeping. It is a required maintenance program. We log how many hours of debris we remove from the street, and we add it to our annual stormwater report. So a lot of these maintenance programs, you know, they're not just nice to haves, they are actually required. OSHA and L&I, there are training requirements, and those are constantly changing. A good example of this is a commercial driver's license. It used to cost us about $150 to get a maintenance worker, a CDL. With new requirements, it's now about $4,500. Next slide. So we go on to cost drivers on the capital side. When we think about existing debt, two good examples of that are the Headworks facility that we recently built at the treatment plant, and then we have the East Street water line. So we do have existing debt that we need to take care of. We have capital facilities plans, required updates, Growth Management Act, Department of Commerce, you see up there, they're the ones that administer the Growth Management Act. And then we have Department of Health, Department of Ecology, they look at our capital facilities plans and look at each capital facility that's incorporated into those plans. So we have permits that are issued every 5 years for wastewater and annually for water and stormwater. And with that, you have, so you have a system reinvestment handout in front of you, and I think Dave's going to take over and talk to you about that. It's not actually in this slide presentation.
One other cost driver, if you'll recall from the FCS presentation, was this concept of system reinvestment. And I've just extracted a few bullets to go over briefly with you. Again, this is extensively covered and narrated in the consultant's final report. I think at a high level, this concept of system reinvestment for our utilities is very similar to ER&R for our rolling stock. So you can kind of think of it that way. But as you know, utilities generally require high levels of capital investment in infrastructure. It's a heavily infrastructure focused type of service. And by providing this service, we have an ongoing duty that's established over time. So to fulfill this continuing obligation, we have to make sure that we can provide for the replacement of our system facilities. Just like a vehicle wears out, the system and its components can wear out. The cost of such replacements it can be really high in comparison to the original facilities due to a variety of factors: inflation, construction conditions, maybe the absence of a grant or developer support in terms of a system reinvestment or replacement, although we seek those all the time. And then the fact that these systems are so heavily integrated, that's the nature of these systems. It's likely that we'd have to deal with multiple assets concurrently when we do a replacement. It wouldn't just be one little thing, it could be, you know, multiple components. So it's prudent that we develop a long-term replacement funding strategy to mitigate the impacts to ratepayers during periods of substantial system investment. So if you can imagine, if you're not planning on a stable basis through your rates for system replacement and reinvestment, you'll undertake significant expense for those assets that you have to replace, and in some very short window, you would have to pay for them. And you'd probably go out and get a debt instrument, but you'd have to do some kind of rate scenario at that time, and it would be a big, potentially over time, that would be a big spike. So the concept is to have a regular program through your rates. So in the long term, notwithstanding what we're looking at here, but in the long term, that is a rate stabilization approach. A common approach, and maybe the common approach of municipal utilities, is to use a depreciation expense as the benchmark, and then use rates backing up against that depreciation expense to determine what the appropriate level of funding is. And then a couple other incentives for doing system reinvestment is that many federal and state grant and loan programs now require that utilities fund some level of system reinvestment in their program as a requirement to even be eligible for those grant and loan programs. And then finally, as we go out shopping for rates when we're going to execute debt, bond underwriters consider our policy around system reinvestment funding as part of their assessment of our ability to sustain operations, provide reasonable rates, and to repay the bonds. So it has positive implications for us in terms of going out to get money, whether it's grants or loans or our own bonds. So that's the idea of system reinvestment. And you'll see in just a moment here what piece of the pie, if you would, system reinvestment represents. I think that Jen was
So this is from the FCS presentation, and basically the red line is where our rates currently are at for the water operating system. So what we did is we pulled out on the next slide what that would look like, what we'd need to raise rates just to get by. This is in regards to Councilmember McDaniel's question. And we do have that represented here. The blue bar is the operating expenses, and then the green is the existing debt. So as you can see, our current rates are not high enough to pay for O&M and existing debt once we hit about 2012. On the sewer side, our current rates are currently not covering the cost of our existing debt and O&M. And with all the requirement and all the projects that are coming, obviously that is not high enough to sustain those expenditures. Oops, I jumped ahead, sorry. No, go ahead. I would explain this slide first. We have the dollar amounts listed there as well for what it's not currently covering on each one of these slides as well on the systems. I'm going to go through all three, and then we'll answer the question here in a minute on what the rates would need to be. But with the storm, again, same scenario. We get to about 2012 before the current rates are not high enough to cover the cost. So we have put together, this isn't in the handouts, I have a sheet here. We've put together what we would need to do rate-wise